Big Bang, make believe you're writing to a Christian who believes in creationism. If you believe in creationism, make believe you're writing to a scientist who believes in the Big Bang. Always think that you're writing to someone who does not agree with you. You're not writing to your friends anymore. Are there any questions for me? No? Let's see. No. Let me know. Let me know. Okay. Okay, good. So we were talking about soundness last time, a few things. Let's do a review. Let's do our second review. Don't forget, you're also supposed to be reading the book. There will be questions on the midterm from the book, maybe 12 or 13 questions. If there's something in the book that you don't understand, let me know. Otherwise, it's a pretty straightforward book. Review number 2. You need to know what... Yes, Jennifer.
Do we have to... Oh, wait. Let me share my camera. Okay. Do we have to read the entire book for this exam or only through a few chapters?
The answer's in the syllabus.
Okay.
Yeah, I don't know offhand. It's in the syllabus exactly which chapters. Okay. Right. So for the exam, you'll need to know what soundness is. This we did last time. Don't forget that there are valid arguments. For example, modus ponens, modus tollens. Those are valid arguments, which means that they are deductive arguments, the conclusion of which follows necessarily from the premises. When they're sound, it's even better, right? It means that the assumptions are widely acceptable. Yes, Jennifer. No problem. So, for example, the following is a valid modus tollens argument. If I am a building, then I fly. It is not the case that I fly, therefore it is not the case that I am a building. That's valid, because the conclusion follows necessarily from the premises. But it's unsound, right? Because the first assumption is controversial, namely, if I am a building, then I fly. What the hell does that mean? This sounds crazy. It's not acceptable. Most people are going to say, no. The following, however, is a valid and sound modus tollens argument. If I am a reptile, then I am cold-blooded. Number 2, it is not the case that I am cold-blooded. Therefore, it is not the case that I am a reptile. That's valid and sound. Because it is true that if I were a reptile, I would be cold-blooded. It is true that I am not cold-blooded. And it is also true that I am not a reptile. Here's a valid modus ponens argument. Simply valid. If I come to terms with the trapezoid, then there will be a war. I come to terms with the trapezoid, therefore there will be a war. That's valid. But it's unsound because it's apparently gibberish, right? What's this coming to terms with a trapezoid have to do with a war? What the hell is coming to terms with a trapezoid? So that assumption is controversial. People are going to say, I don't buy it. I don't believe that. Since that assumption is controversial, the whole argument is labeled unsound. However, here's a valid modus ponens argument that is sound. If Biden is president, then he lives in the White House. Biden is president, therefore he lives in the White House. That's valid, but it's also sound. Because it is acceptable that if Biden is president, then he lives in the White House. And it's also acceptable that Biden is president. So the argument has acceptable assumptions, therefore it is sound. That is my little review on soundness today. Are there any questions, my dear students, on what soundness is? Let me know. All right. Okay, let's continue with our review here. We also spoke about ethical subjectivism. And by the way, there is a post in the announcements section on ethical subjectivism, on cultural relativism, and on divine command. And I also put up a summary on soundness, and also on modus ponens and modus tollens. You'll find a way to fail. You'll find a way. You have to try. But you can do it. You have to be committed to the idea. Ethical subjectivism. We covered this. Once again, this is the theory in ethics according to which an action is moral just in case it feels right. There's another moral philosophy similar to it called emotivism. I don't know what the difference is between emotivism and ethical subjectivism. They sound like the same thing to me. But anyways, yeah, if it feels right, do it. That's ethical subjectivism. The problems, of course, is that we don't want everyone to do what he or she feels like doing. Yes, Laura.
Can you see me?
I can see you.
Okay, so I read chapter 2 last night, and I think the difference between those two might be that emotivism is more related to the attitude we have towards something more than the emotion itself.
The attitude versus the emotion. But why is it called emotivism?
I mean, I see what you say about the ethical subjectivism, but I think emotivism is more like nothing is true or false. It's an attitude matter. That's why we can't disagree. And maybe in ethical subjectivism we can. Perhaps. I don't know.
Okay. That sounds good. Thank you. Because I have to think about it, but it's something. I had no idea.
Yeah, I was just as confused, but now that you say that, maybe that might be the, like one of the reasons.
Yeah. Keep looking into it. Keep looking into it. I'm still confused. I'm easily confused. Okay, let's get rid of this. So anyways, Ethical subjectivism is the moral philosophy according to which what is moral is what feels right. Of course, we don't want everyone doing what he or she feels like doing. If everyone did what he or she felt like doing, then the world of human beings would come to an end, right? There would be no one left. And if there's no one left, then ethics becomes impossible. And if ethics becomes impossible, all ethical theories become impossible. And if all ethical theories become impossible, then ethical subjectivism itself becomes impossible. So, in a nutshell, if you take it seriously, if you adopt it, if you go along with ethical subjectivism, you destroy it. It's a self-defeating theory. But it's just obvious that you shouldn't go along with it, right? Not to say that feelings are unimportant. Feelings are important. You should listen to your feelings, I think. I think everyone believes that you should listen to it, but they shouldn't be the only thing that you listen to, or that determines your behavior. So that's enough of that. Then we spoke about divine command. Please interrupt me when you don't understand something. As a matter of fact, you don't interrupt me if you ask me something. According to divine command, the divine command theory, an action is moral just in case God commands it or God wills it. Once again, not everyone who believes in God believes in this moral theory. I know people who believe in God who think that the divine command theory is ridiculous, right? But some do. It's not the case that everyone who believes in God thinks the same way. So, yeah, if God commands some action, or if God wills some action, then it is moral. And as I said, this is a problem because you're introducing a second problem to a problem that we had already. Our problem was what makes an action moral? Let's try to figure out this problem. But if you bring up God, then people are going to be saying, well, how do you know God exists? So you're opening up another can of worms, right? Not that it's always wrong to talk about God. You can, but everything has its place. Philosophers do write about God. Of course they do, but not now, right? So, suppose someone is trying to teach you how to play soccer and you start talking about basketball, right? That's a bad example. But anyways, ignore that example. So actually, it might work. There is dribbling in both sports, for example. But anyways, yeah, it's not good to bring up another problem before you solve the first one. You wouldn't do two math problems at the same time, right? Or you try to avoid it. Another problem with divine command is that it's uninformative. What's moral? Oh, what God wants. Oh, okay, I wonder what he wants, right? It's like, what's beauty? It's what I like. Oh, okay, I wonder what you like. It's not a good answer. It's a stupid answer. It's a very bad answer. Socrates will have a few things to say about this. We'll go over Socrates today. Yeah, so it's not informative. What is a dodecahedron? I have no idea what a dodecahedron is. What is it? It's something I like. Oh, thanks a lot. That really. It sounds like a bad joke. The answer sounds like a bad joke. And of course, the other problem associated with divine command comes in the form of a question. The divine command theorist is asked, Is an action moral because God wills it, or does God will it because it's moral? Of course, the divine command theorist believes that God wills. I'm sorry. The divine command theory believes that an action is moral because God wills it. But if he answers in this way, or she, then the foundations of ethics and morality appear to be arbitrary and capricious. You know, when you ask your parents, you know, why did you do that? Or why should I do this, mom and dad? Because I said so. Right? Doesn't really enlighten anyone, right? So, and you're wondering, why did you say so? Right? You're wondering, why does God will something? Is it just arbitrary? Is it just what he feels like doing? So that's not good. According to many, that's not good. I really don't care, but according to many, if morality is fundamentally divine and whimsical, then there's a problem. According to many. Don't forget, I try not to give my own views. I'm giving you the views that are bandied about. I guess those who complain in this particular case are those who expect morality to be rational, to to uh, to to be composed of principles. Not just fancies or flights of fancy, right? And of course, if the divine command theorist answers, "Oh no, God wills something, God likes something, God commands something because it is moral to begin with." Well, if he says that, that makes more sense. However, there are two problems. First, the divine command theorist is abandoning his or her own theory. And and the second problem is that if God commands something or wants or wills something because it is moral to begin with, then it was already moral, and therefore God is not the source of morality. God does not determine what is moral. It's already moral. Just as a painting that is already beautiful is not rendered beautiful by the beholders. And of course, if this is the case, then God is not the creator of all things. So no matter what the divine command theorist answers, he has a problem or she has a problem. This, by the way, is called a dilemma. If you go to the left, you have a problem. If you go to the right, you have a problem. It's a dilemma. No matter what you do, you have a problem. So there are at least 4 problems with divine command theory. Are there any questions on divine command? Don't forget to post in the announcement section.
No questions.
No? Okay. Let me know. And finally, we went over cultural relativism. Another uninspired moral philosophy. And according to cultural relativism, it's not a feeling that makes an action moral. It's not that God wills it that makes an action moral. No, it's that the culture approves of it. The culture approves, then it's moral. So what should I do? Just go along with the culture. What should I not do? Go against the current. Rock the boat. Don't do that. That would be immoral. Well, why the hell do you believe this? Right? Why do cultural relativists believe that this is true? Well, because they think that morality is different for each culture. There are no universal moral laws for all. Why do they believe that? And they say, well, take a look around, right? In culture A, they do one thing. In culture B, they do the other, or the opposite. In culture C, they do one thing. In culture D, they do the opposite. Therefore, there are no universal moral rules. This is a bad argument. It doesn't follow from the fact that people disagree, that there is no objective truth pertaining to that over which they disagree. Again, it doesn't follow from the fact that people disagree that there is no objective truth regarding whatever it is that they are disagreeing about or disagreeing over. Bullfighting is moral in one culture, is immoral in another. That's true. Oh, sorry, that was wrong. Bullfighting is said to be moral and practiced in a particular culture or subculture. And bullfighting is said to be immoral in some other culture. Slaughtering dolphins as a rite of passage is said to be moral in one culture and practiced. Elsewhere, they say no, it's immoral and we should not practice it. All of this is true. These disagreements exist, right? Stoning an adulterous woman to death is said to be moral in certain cultures, said to be immoral in other cultures, and so on and so on and so on. You say tomato, I say tomato. Yes, these disagreements exist, but it doesn't mean that there couldn't be objective moral laws for all. Just because people disagree, it doesn't mean that there's nothing objectively true. Yes, Laura.
But is that even possible, like to achieve something universally accepted?
Is it possible? Of course it's possible. There's no contradiction in it. It's logically possible.
Yeah, but is there like a social norm or a moral value that will be accepted everywhere?
Is there? I don't know. But is it possible? It's possible.
Okay.
And I don't know because I'm not an anthropologist. Right? Maybe I shouldn't say that. It's like a cop out. Hey, I'm not an anthropologist. I think maybe, I don't know, maybe I'm just guessing now. Maybe caring for your children doesn't mean that everyone's gonna do it, right? But maybe caring for your children.
So is something like socially acceptable when the majority does it? Doesn't mean everyone has to follow it. Sorry.
I think that the majority.
Okay.
Yeah, you can't have everyone doing it because you got Jeffrey Dahmer eating people. You know what I mean?
Thank you, Professor.
Oh, sure. Good question. But yeah, lots of things are possible, right? Lots of things are possible. If there isn't a contradiction, it's possible, at least logically possible, right? It's possible that Spider-Man exists. It's possible that Iron Man exists. It's possible that Joe Biden is no longer president. 2 minutes ago, he said, "I quit. I had it." All of these things are possible, right? Now, what actually occurs? That's another matter. Any other good questions, complaints, criticisms, invectives, insults, bribes? I mean, no bribes. Okay. All right. So let us talk about. That was fast. That was fast. Let us talk about the Greeks, if you don't mind. And when I say the Greeks, I don't mean the Greeks today, with all due respect to the Greeks today. They're special too, I'm sure, but you know, well, I'll just leave it at that. Yeah, the Greeks are the founders of Western civilization, right? Socrates, Plato, and Aristotle. That was your second review, by the way. There are Socrates, Plato. There are many Greek philosophers. The first Greek philosopher was Thales. He was the first one. Thales was born 624 BC. That's 624 years before Christ or before the Common Era, whichever expression you prefer. So roughly Thales was born 2,500 years ago, 2,600 years ago, something like that. Yeah. If you take my philosophy course, I go over Thales. Thales was a genius. He was also a mathematician. There are theorems today that we still use. He was doing math before there was a systematized body of knowledge called mathematics. Before Pythagoras. Mathematics, though, is Egyptian. It's not Greek. Mathematics is Egyptian. However, a lot of the knowledge that the Egyptians clearly had was lost. Egypt is a big mystery. Egypt is a big mystery. By the time Thales comes around, the Egyptians were no longer good at mathematics. As a matter of fact, they had to ask him to go to Egypt to measure the height of the pyramids. They didn't know how tall their pyramids were. Something really strange happened in Egypt. Because obviously, if you see their structures, if you see their pyramids, other wonders, it's obvious, right, that these people knew what they were doing. But again, by the time the Greeks start to flourish, records are lost. So is much of the knowledge, if not all of it. And the Greeks and the Egyptians themselves are wondering, how did we put these pyramids up? Right? I wonder how tall they are. Well, call a Greek because we can't figure it out. Yeah, there are many Greek philosophers. I recommend the book in Pre-Socratic Philosophy to all of you. There's Thales, Anaximander, Anaximenes, Xenophanes, Heraclitus of Ephesus, Pythagoras of Samos, Parmenides of Elia, Zeno of Elia, Melissus, Philolaus, Empedocles of Acragas, Diogenes of Apollonia, Anaxagoras of Clazomene. It goes on and on and on and on. These are all very, very, very important people. But yeah, then these guys, all of these philosophers that I mentioned and others that I forgot to mention, they were eclipsed, overshadowed by Socrates, Plato, and Aristotle. So let's get rid of Thales here. No pun intended when I say Thales was eclipsed. He predicted an eclipse, okay? How he did it, nobody knows. Okay, so yeah, these are the three towering figures. Socrates was born around 470 BC, maybe 476, I forget. I think 476. And I'll put circa here, meaning around. And he was born around Athens. No, so that's Plato. That's Plato. Oh, Socrates too. Okay, Socrates too was born in a neighborhood outside of Athens, like a suburb. Plato was also born in a suburb outside of Athens. Plato was Socrates' student. And then Aristotle was Plato's student, but Aristotle was born in Macedonia. It's another country, but they're ethnically, culturally Greek, right? Some countries have almost indistinguishable characteristics, cultures, customs. So I'm from Argentina, and I know a lot of people from Uruguay, and I can't tell the difference. When I talk to somebody from Uruguay, I sometimes think they're from Argentina. I can't tell the difference. They like the same things we like. You really can't tell. I can't. Well, something similar happens between the Macedonians and the Greeks. They're culturally the same thing. Also, lots of similarities between Austrians and Germans. Right? Österreich und Deutschland. Yeah. So when we say Aristotle was a Greek philosopher, that's kind of. It also happens with the Prussians. The Prussians are Germans. Kant was a Prussian nationally. But culturally, nobody says Kant, a Prussian philosopher. It's a German philosopher because of his culture. Okay, so Socrates, Plato, and Aristotle, they are the founders of Western civilization. And much more, right? I mean, you think that's enough, right? It's much more than that. You'll see when we go over Aristotle in particular. They had some things in common. You may have heard that democracy comes from Greece. Some of you may have heard this, that democracy comes from Greece. It's true. Democracy does come from Greece, right? However, the founder of democracy is a guy called Cleisthenes. Okay, Cleisthenes, and there are others too. Solon was also, but Socrates, Plato, and Aristotle are not the founders of democracy. They don't like democracy. That's something my students don't understand. Socrates, Plato, and Aristotle. Well, Plato says that democracy is a degenerate form of government. None of them like it. You see, there are philosophers who are for democracy. For example, Cleisthenes. And they gave us democracy. Not every philosopher, none of the three men on the board here, they didn't like democracy at all. One main reason is that they thought that most people were stupid. Not most people, the vast majority of people are stupid. So they should not have a say. The kind of government that Socrates, Plato, and Aristotle wanted, it goes by different names according to each one, but roughly what it is an aristocracy. An aristocracy is a government not by the people, right? Again, these Socrates, Plato, and Aristotle don't believe that people should have a say, right? They should not vote. Are you kidding me? You're going to let those people vote, right? They don't even know their own names, right? They don't even know what the capital of the country is, right? You can't let people vote. You can't let the vast majority of people vote. We want an aristocracy. What's that? Well, aristos means best. Is a superlative, right? And kratein means to be strong or to rule. So this is the rule by the best. It's okay. There are other reasons why they abhorred democracy, and we'll go over that later. So yeah, they want a government by the best, right? Now, who's the best? Well, according to them, the best person isn't necessarily the wealthiest person, right? The best person isn't necessarily a noble, right? Someone who was born into royalty, right? That's not the best person. It could be, but according to them, the best person is someone who has a golden soul. A golden soul. Not real gold, or not physical gold, I should say, right? But a golden soul. That person should rule. It could be a wealthy person, it could be a homeless person. That's right, Gusham, the philosopher king. It could, according to Plato, it could be a woman. According to Aristotle, it could not be a woman because Aristotle was a chauvinist. Plato is a feminist. Aristotle is a chauvinist. But anyways, the point is that they wanted the best person to. Who's the best person? Well, the one who better understands or best understands science, philosophy, mathematics, blah, blah. Right? But we can't have the people voting because the people are going to vote for the wrong person. The people are easily fooled by clever speakers who don't have virtue. In a democracy, you get the masses picking an imposter. Say, these are not my ideas. My ideas are private, right? These are the ideas of. I don't know, Igon. I don't know if it's a form of communism. I don't know. I don't know that much about communism. I mean, I studied it when I was in college, but I don't remember. So, don't know. So, yeah, what they want is a philosopher king. Are you talking about Igon? Are you talking about the position that Socrates, Plato, and Aristotle are talking about? Oh, okay. And by the way, if you want to make a comment, you got to be on camera next time. Yeah, in Plato's philosophy, there are some elements of communism. There's some elements of communism and totalitarianism. That's right. If you read the Republic, you'll see that there are some elements of communism, and I don't know if there are too many, but there are some. In Aristotle's political philosophy, there is nothing like communism. But in Plato, there is some of that, and also some totalitarianism. However, it's not a problem because the person governing really is the best person. You see, the person governing really is the best person. He or she does have the virtue of temperance, intelligence, integrity, leadership, etc. So we all should do what that person says. We all should do what that person says. The leader in Plato's Republic is clearly superior. He's the best at chess, right? Do you know what I mean? I mean, the guy or the gal really is superior. So the rest of us are inferior. And since that's the case, it just makes sense that the rest of us have to do what he says. Now, if we have power, then we're going to screw up and we're going to vote for the wrong people. That's more or less what the three of them believed when it came to politics. Okay, so let's talk about Socrates more in depth. Yeah, Socrates was born. Oh wait. Yeah, so don't make the mistake. Don't tell your friends, hey, I went to college and I know that Plato came up with democracy. Don't do that. That's not true. We'll talk about Plato and Aristotle. Today we'll talk about Socrates. So Socrates is a very interesting figure. He did not have a lot of money. He preferred to work as a builder, as a mason, as a stonemason. Did work in construction. He was very strong. He had the body of a bear and the head of a dog. We are told he was very, very ugly. By the historians Diogenes Laertius and Xenophon, others, they go into great depths talking about how ugly he was. Many paragraphs they spend on this. But anyways, yeah, he was a big guy, worked in construction, burly. Yeah. And he could have had a lot of money. He could have been wealthy beyond his dreams, but he didn't care for money, right? There are people like this. Look at Mahatma Gandhi, for example, right? Mahatma Gandhi didn't own anything. Just that rag around his ass that he used to walk around with up and down India. That's about it, right? And he was happy. The same with Socrates, right? These people don't really care too much about material wealth. So Socrates could have had cushy jobs. He could have made money because he had the contacts. See, the aristocrats, the wealthy aristocrats liked him. And they would offer him a job. Socrates, just come by the office and just hang out. We'll pay you. We just want you around. We enjoy your company. We'll pay you. It's okay. I'd rather be on my own doing construction. Socrates was also a veteran of the Peloponnesian War. He fought for the Delian League against the Spartans, a war that the Delian League lost. However, Socrates fought courageously, very brave, and it was during the war that he displayed or began to display what many of us today call that control that we call mind over matter. For example, he could sleep in the snow and it would not affect him. He could drink wine all night long and get up in the morning the next day and go jogging. So Socrates also claimed various times to hear a voice that came from some supernatural place, so to speak. It wasn't the voice of a human being. It was the voice, said Socrates, of a goddess. I think her name was Diotima. This voice instructed him. Told him to do this, told him to do that. What's that all about? Was he schizophrenic? I don't know. But that's what we got, right? A really interesting guy. He claims to hear voices. He fall asleep in the snow. Doesn't bother him. Drink wine all night long, not get drunk. What am I forgetting? Oh yeah. Again, very ugly, right? Head of a dog. The eyes were really far apart, so he looked like a crab. His nose was the ugliest nose in the history of ugliest noses. They go on forever. Did I not forget nothing? Did I not forget anything in this one? Wow. Okay. What else can I tell you about the man? Well, a lot. Socrates never wrote anything down. If someone tells you, I got the book by Socrates, that person's confused or lying to you. There is no book by Socrates. Socrates never wrote anything. What Socrates did was to walk around the agora. The agora is the marketplace, is the mall, right? The town square of Athens, where people are selling things, right? People are shopping. So that's where Socrates would hang out. And he would talk to people out in the streets. And that's where he philosophized. But he never sat down to write something down. Now, when he was out in the streets, he would talk to one person at a time. He wouldn't preach to a crowd or anything like that. He would talk to one person at a time. This person with whom Socrates engages in dialogue is called the interlocutor. I'll be using this word a lot. An interlocutor is the person with whom you're talking. If I talk to you, I am your interlocutor. If you talk to me, the same thing. You're my interlocutor. Yeah. So when I talk to my cat Sophia, she's my interlocutor. I'm her interlocutor. She's sleeping now. Usually when I teach at 8 in the morning, they jump all over the place. It's very unprofessional. but at this time they sleep. Sophia and Agamemnon. You might not ever see them because, again, at this time they're sleeping. So, anyways, Socrates. Yeah, he would talk to one person at a time, the interlocutor, and that's how he would philosophize out in the marketplace. However, he did talk to more. He did talk to a group once in a while. This is when he was a guest at a dinner party or something like that. In that case, yeah, he would talk to more than one person. In the Republic, for example, in the book The Republic, Socrates is having dinner at the house of Cephalus, not Syphilis, Cephalus. And there he's talking to 9 other philosophers while they have dinner. In the book The Symposium, Socrates is also having dinner. I forgot at whose house. But yeah, he's also talking to other philosophers. There are many people there. But out in the streets, it's just one interlocutor. Now, when Socrates spoke to the interlocutor, and it was usually a man, right? So if I say he, it's because back then, the Greeks were not too fond of women. Plato was a feminist. Plato believed that a woman could have the qualifications to be a leader. Right? That's very rare back then, right? Women weren't really allowed to philosophize. So yeah, if I say the interlocutor and I'll say he, it's because that's the way it was, right? It was just like he. What Socrates says to the interlocutor, always, no matter who the interlocutor is, every time Socrates is talking to that one guy, every time Socrates is talking to some guy out there in the agora, the marketplace, every time Socrates will let the interlocutor know that he, Socrates, is ignorant. He knows nothing. I know nothing. Strange philosopher, right? Doesn't write anything down and doesn't claim to know anything. Why the hell should we listen to him, right? Well, you'll see why. Socrates would tell the interlocutor, I know nothing, but I heard that you know quite a bit, right? So maybe you can give me some knowledge. Socrates was very sarcastic, by the way. So the conversation that Socrates is having with the interlocutor has a purpose. Socrates is asking for knowledge. Socrates is asking for knowledge. And he's going to ask about the very thing he's going to ask about the very thing that the interlocutor should know. For example, if the interlocutor is a judge, Socrates might ask, what is justice? If the interlocutor is a poet, then Socrates might ask, what is love? If the interlocutor is a general, Socrates might ask, what is courage? So that's what he would do. Right? And the interlocutor was always someone important, someone from the establishment. It wasn't you and it wasn't me, right? It was maybe the president, or not the president. Back then they had no president. The archon. The archon is the mayor. So he might talk to the mayor of Athens. He might talk to a famous general. He might, and he did. He might talk to a famous poet, a holy man, a holy man. And he would ask these people questions that had this structure. What is X? What is piety? Piety is another word for holiness. We'll talk about piety. What is piety? I don't know. I'm ignorant. Teach me. I heard you knew. What is knowledge? He asks this of a guy called Theaetetus. He asks the dictator Alcibiades, what is love? He asks everyone at the in Cephalus' house, what is justice? He asks Laches, what is courage? And so on and so on and so on. And the interlocutor would venture an answer. Oh, you want to know what justice is, Socrates? You came to the right place. Justice is so and so. Sometimes, sarcastically, Socrates would praise the answer. Wow, that's really impressive. You know, it's a good thing I came to you. I heard you were wise, but I had no idea you were this wise, blah, blah, blah. It's all bullshit, right? What a great answer. I love the answer you just gave me. I love your definition of justice. Well, says the interlocutor, then it was a pleasure talking to you, so I'll be off. See you later. And at this point, Socrates would say, but hold on a minute. You see, I am very ignorant. And even though I like your answer, even though I like your definition, I'm very ignorant. And I don't understand it. I'm sure it's because I can't think straight. But it seems to me that blah, blah, blah. And in a very indirect and roundabout way, in a very indirect, roundabout, snake in the grass way, without ever affirming anything, without ever saying that's false. Socrates, in a sneaky way, would get the interlocutor to understand. He would get the interlocutor to understand that the answer that he gave was, at the very least, problematic, if not false. Okay. So, you know, this is used today in the courthouses. Suppose I'm cross-examining someone, Taylor, and I ask Taylor a question, right? Hey, Taylor, where were you on May 15th? And in the evening of May 15th, where were you? That's a question, right? And he says, at home. And I say, did you not say in your signed affidavit, another question, that you were at Johnson's house? Oh yeah, he answers. Don't you believe, third question, that your testimony is becoming inconsistent or contradictory? It appears so. Don't you think then that your testimony is unreliable? Yes. That's how you get them. You don't need to say your testimony is unreliable. You just ask them questions. You ask them questions. Don't you think that? Because if Socrates affirms anything, then he's acting as if he has knowledge. He cannot do that. Or should not do that. But he can ask questions. So simply by asking questions, simply by scrutinizing, by analyzing, through questioning, the definition that the interlocutor gives, it dawns on the interlocutor's mind, it becomes apparent to him that the definition he gave was problematic. Socrates doesn't need to say, that's false. Your definition is problematic. Socrates doesn't need to do that. Just ask questions. So, when you do this, by the way, when you do this, when you are engaged in a dialogue with someone, and you ask that someone questions, and bring to light that there are problems with the answers just through questioning, you're employing what we today call the Socratic Method. Socrates didn't call it the Socratic Method. We call it that today. Again, whenever you're asking someone questions, just questions about something, some particular topic, and without affirming anything, you're revealing, right? You're revealing that there's a problem with what that person is thinking. You're using the Socratic method. And I will put up a summary of the Socratic. I have a good summary that I put together for you. So what happens next? Well, Socrates asks the interlocutor, "Hey, listen, your answers, he has him understand. He has him understand. The answer sucked, right? But don't worry. You were just warming up, right? Give us a second answer. You can do it. You're the expert. You're important. You're wise. Be of good cheer and give us a second definition. Definition number 2, I'm sure it'll be perfect. Right? What is justice?" And at this point, the interlocutor gives a second definition. Once again, initially, Socrates may praise the answer. But once again, Socrates, playing dumb, is going to start asking questions about the answer. What do you think about this? What do you think about that? Why did you say this? Don't you think that this statement is inconsistent with some other one you made earlier? I don't know. I'm stupid. I'm just asking you. Eventually, for the second time, the interlocutor, the very important member of the establishment, realizes, shit, I'm a judge and I cannot define justice. I cannot define justice. So the judge is despondent. He's dejected. He's depressed. But Socrates says, not to worry. Give us a third definition. At this point, Plato Ian Alexander Lowe, can you hear me?
Yes, I can. My Wi-Fi it keeps acting up.
Yeah, why don't you try a different system, because I'm teaching here and I see your name on the board every 2 seconds. It's very distracting. Why don't you get off that Wi-Fi and try something else? I'll wait for you.
Let me.
Get a better connection. I understand, but you're coming and going. It's not your problem, but I mean, it's not your fault, but try something else. Okay? Happens to all of us. So at this point in the dialogue, Plato shows up. Plato's a little boy, and he shows up with his brothers, Adeimantus and Glaucon. And they say to each other, check it out. Socrates is interrogating the judge. He's going to make a fool out of the judge. And Plato starts to write everything down. And that's how we know what these dialogues were like. Because Plato was writing everything down. And if you buy any of Plato's books today, they're still bestsellers. They've been bestsellers all over the world for thousands of years. If you buy Plato's books today, you'll see that they are dialogues. Right? And the main character is Socrates. Where did Plato get these ideas from? Well, from following Socrates around, right? And writing everything down. So Plato, Glaucon, and Adeimantus, they absolutely love it. They love to see someone in authority being derided. The judge gives a fourth answer. A third answer. Doesn't work. Once again, just through questioning. Using the Socratic method, you just ask questions. Just through questioning, just by scrutinizing the third answer through questions, the judge himself realizes that the definition he gave is no good. Plato writes everything down. And others are listening in. Because don't forget, this is outside. It's out in the marketplace. And others are getting worried. Hey, that's the judge. And you know what? He can't define justice, man. That's odd. You would think, right? Of all things, he would know what justice is, right? That's odd. Judge gives a fourth definition, fifth definition, seventh definition. Now onlookers are worried. Yeah, if you guys have internet issues, I understand that 100%. I understand that 100%. It's not your fault. I don't have them. I have them like once in a while. They're very blue. But if you see that you're logging in, logging off, logging in, just give it up. Imagine I'm teaching, and a student comes into the room, leaves the room, comes into the room, leaves the room. It's very distracting. But it's not your fault. Judge gives many different definitions of justice. None of them work. None of them can withstand the Socratic elenchus, the Socratic method, the Socratic onslaught of the barrage of analytical, scrutinizing questions. The judge finally says, listen, Socrates, nice talking to you, but some of us around here, we have a life, we have things to do. I have to get going. As the judge walks away, not having satisfied Socrates in the least, couldn't define justice. Socrates exclaims for all to hear, Judge, where are you going? You've left me here ignorant. You were not able to explain to me what justice is. And that's how the dialogue ends. It ends in something called aporia, which means puzzlement. It means puzzlement. There is no resolution. Nothing is gained. Nothing is learned. People are just puzzled now. The Greeks are puzzled. Why does the judge not know what justice is? The judge himself is puzzled. Shit, I thought I knew what justice was. And Socrates remains puzzled. He still doesn't know what justice is. The next day, Socrates would target someone else, a famous general. And the next day, another member of the establishment. And little by little, Socrates was revealing to the world that those who are in power don't have knowledge. And so he was executed in 399 BC. The establishment does not like to be questioned. The establishment does not like to be belittled. The establishment is not going to have you mock fun at it. Let's take a break, and I'll see you 1:15.